So it's been a while since we've done one of these, guys. We've been so busy doing all this bankroll building nonsense that we haven't really gotten down to sitting down breaking down a card. So this should be interesting, seeing as Brisnet and company took their sweet ass time getting even the preliminary stuff up. But I figured we wanted to get something in pretty early. Give some early thoughts on just the last six races here of the card. Um, as usual, I'm joined here on the far left by our boy Caleb. In the middle, we got Mark, and then I am Josh. We are on the wrong lead. Shout out to our boy the Wolf Chase, who is still dealing with back issues, probably for the past like year and a half, 2 years. Is get better soon, man. Hopefully we'll catch you next week. I am going to try and con him into writing something for the site, but because that he can do laying on his back, and I have no not that much sympathy. I'll put him to work. Um. Anyways, let's get straight to it. Let's start taking a look here at race 7. Um. The Fred Hooper. It's a grade 3. Looks like 4-year-olds and up. 1 mile, and it's a one-turn mile here. Um, Pack, have you taken a look at this one yet? You got some early thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
no, some early thoughts. I mean, I think this is one of the races on the card that I wanted the most kind of spread in. Felt like there was a lot of potential players. Zenden, the Pletcher horse, makes a lot of sense in here. You can make a case for rare form. The Del Romans horse with getting Flavian this time. Make a case for Fat Man. I think Fat Man's kind of a must-use type of a horse, even though Fat Man doesn't really love winning. Um, and then there's a bunch of others in here. Something like a Tale of Silence makes a lot of sense. Free Enterprise, which is the probably potentially loaded Chad horse, who's taking a massive step up in class here, but has the back figs that make a lot of sense. I think you can even use somebody like a Gray Magician, So I think there's a race that you can go real deep in. This is one of the ones that I'll probably be 5 or 6 deep in here at least. And, but, I think on top, I want the most of Zenden and I want the most of the Chad horse, Free Enterprise. Chad's known for, horses coming off an allowance win and stepping up and popping, a G3. That's kind of how he plays. And Zenden's been consistent and has some form across the course. So those are the two that I want most of. But yeah, I'm not sure what else you guys are thinking.
What if I told you? Oh, and that didn't happen. What if I told you I don't have either of those horses?
I would tell you were nuts.
Um, I got 3 horses here highlighted. Trying to do camera work here as well while talking. Um, so I got 3 horses highlighted here. Let me switch on over to my. So I took a quick look at the pace dynamic for this now. Generally, usually take a look at optics just for the visual, but obviously we don't have that yet. I'll probably have that sometime tomorrow, hopefully. Um, so I just took a quick look at the Brisnet. Caleb has said that sometimes this might be the only thing I look at in races, but we got our little I got a little race summary here. Um, I know it's only a one-turn mile, and I know we're at Gulfstream Park, which generally tends to be pretty speed favoring. But we got a lot of speed signed up for this, at least by Brisnet standards. So I'm going to be looking at 3 horses coming off the pace here. Um, the one I'll probably use most prominently is going to be Gran Omero. I think Gran Omero's only raced once here in the U.S. Came from Venezuela. Pretty much, I mean, won everything out there. And looked pretty good in a restricted race, going a mile and an eighth last time. So he's coming back. I think this is a slight step up in class for him, but there's not really a lot in here that I'm real scared about. Um, so I think that the pace scenario is gonna be pretty favorable for him. So this is going to be probably the horse I'm going to use most prominently. The other horse that I am going to use quite a bit of is going to be a horse that Pack already mentioned, which is Gray Magician. Um, Gray Magician is going to be another one of those off the pace horses. And lastly, uh, maybe I'm overthinking this and trying to get too cute, but I was a little interested in the horse Eye of a Jedi, which I believe is a 3 horse here. Um, just looking at the pace figures, has seemed to have done its best work at a mile and at Gulfstream. So is shown that he's been able to close at Gulfstream with not all that much help. Most of them are rated, somewhat fast paces, but nothing crazy. So kind of a horse for course angle here, and just trying to find a price in here. But I still think that most prominently I'm gonna be using the 12 and what number is Great Magician? Like the 10. So that's probably where most of my plays gonna go through, but maybe get a little cute with Eye of a Jedi, either underneath or as a long.
So wait a second. You're calling a 2 for 12 across the surface horse the horse for course. Just checking. I got
Hey,
that right,
I'm just
right?
saying he's one. Okay, he's one here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for an off the pace horse, what's your issue with Fat Man? Isn't he the logical off the pace horse? He's, much better on the fig standpoint. Arad got him figure him out last time out, got up for second across the track, so he's got some experience across the track. And Arad had choice in lands here. I mean, not taking a dig at your philosophy, I understand where you're coming from. This may fall apart. Isn't Fat Man the one you want?
Yeah, I mean, going up here. Yeah, I mean, Fat Man makes a lot of sense, and especially with Irad aboard. Honestly, I think it's probably one I just missed because I thought that I could get through this race real fast. But definitely, Fat Man does fit into the kind of thinking I'm looking at. I think I might have just taken a more general look at the pace figures and noticed the others being, I guess, more stone cold closers. But yeah, no, definitely Fat Man does fit in, and I will actually be with that. So I don't fuck this up on Saturday. So thank you for that, Zach.
Yeah, I think I agree with actually both of you guys. And yeah, I've not had the time to look at the card. I mean, I had about 2 minutes to look at this race, and I have not looked at a single race beyond this one yet. So take whatever I say with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I think I agree with the premise that there's a ton of ways you can go in this race and that you probably want to spread. I don't think, I'll be able to pick just 1 or 2 horses and feel good about that in this race. I haven't even begun to think of structure or sequence or anything, so I don't know where this falls in a pick 4, pick 5. But I do think Zenden's a usable horse here. I remember seeing this horse in the Tampa Bay Derby. I kind of tossed him out thinking he's a sprinter, never won't get the distance. And the horse set some really honest fractions and was by far the best of his speed in a race that kind of fell apart. And he came back in another route race and just didn't really pick up his feet. And then since going to the Pletcher Barn, he's turned in, a pretty strong performance and an optional claiming, and then kind of had a bad break and, didn't really do all that much in the Mr. Prospector. But that's not a terrible effort. He still earned a respectable speed figure. I think Zenden's a player here. I agree with Josh. I think the pace is likely to get very hot. I know it's a 1-turn mile at Gulfstream. I know speed is strong. I'm going to slant my picks towards the inside as well in these huge fields. I think a lot of these horses are going to get strung out pretty wide. So Zenden's, I don't know if I'd say he's my top pick, but he's probably a top 2 or 3. Fat Man's another one I'm interested in. I don't love him, but I do think he has the right run style. And I think that, he should, with probably the best jockey at the Gulfstream meet for the past couple of years and are at Ortiz, I think he gets the right trip. So that's another one that I thought was pretty interesting, as well as Free Enterprise, the 8. I guess I'm just kind of stealing most of Mark's picks. But yeah, I mean, this is a horse that kind of had some bridesmaid syndrome for a little while. Broke through pretty impressively last out. Has the right run style from just off the pace to, win a race like this. And the horses he was losing to are strong horses. I mean, Performer is a graded stakes winner, I think like 4 to 5 lifetime, and beat Tax in the Discovery last time out. And that's the horse that he lost by 3/4 of a length against in his debut. NYC is a high level allowance winner himself. So this horse looks like he maybe it's a 5-year-old horse that didn't race until his 5-year-old season from LaPrvyte Stables. So it took 4 tries to break his maiden. I mean, there's a few things to be concerned with there. Like, I certainly wouldn't want the horse at 3-1, but something more like 5 or 6-1. I think that horse is pretty interesting. And then, Great Magician's the last one. That horse is maddeningly inconsistent. He was beaten ahead by Spun to Run in the Smarty Jones, and Spun to Run's pretty good. But then he came back in an optional claiming and just barely beat an okay field by a neck. That horse, Pirate's Punch, actually, that he beat by a neck 2 back, came back in the fairgrounds this past week and ran a huge speed figure in an allowance race. Wasn't the toughest field, but was definitely a huge figure. And then the horse just really never picked up his feet last time in the San Antonio in a race that featured not a whole lot of passing, a fairly slow pace. He gets to cut back here down to back to 1 turn, which is what I think is going to be a little better for him. And I think that horse is interesting. Like I said, there's a bunch of ways you can go here. I'll probably have 5 horses or so.
God, I gotta keep remembering I can't hit caps lock. I have that window open. So one question that Caleb did have before we started is, who is Olympic Village? And I said it's a Luch horse, and he said no, it's not. Owner Ron Paolucci Racing. So yes, it is a Luch horse.
You were correct.
Yeah, that was that horse that ran a Jockey Club Gold Cup and just had no fuck. But I don't know. I think we've pretty much talked this race to death. It seems like I know some people in the chat are liking. I see Sporting Chances like 7 Trumpets. I think he's just got a soft spot for the horse, and Frankie Corey's aboard. I did make a note that if for some reason the track is just like super speed favoring, obviously 7 Trumpets is probably going to be a horse I'll take a look at, along with like Rare Form, Epic Dreamer. But we're just going to assume that the track's playing fair for most of this, although, it's Gulfstream, so who the fuck. Question from the chat. What is Pack Rat drinking?
I am still working on a little bit of Little Book, which I had last time. So been going away at that, which is decent, but not my favorite. Let's put it that way.
Since we might as well go around the room. What do you got over there, Caleb?
I'm still working on some E.H. Taylor small batch, so it's a treat. So I'm not trying to go through it too quick.
It's done. You happy? You see that little bit? That little bit is what's going to go into my infinity bottle. So we're done with the Blantons. But I did give myself a pretty healthy pour. So yeah, dude, you got to put the good stuff. You got to put the good stuff in there. So
Ski for Fun's excited to see that the guest room bed is made.
Oh, nice.
Moving up in the world. It's a new year.
Race 8, LaPrvyte, looks like a grade 3. 1.5 mile on the turf, 4 years and up, filly of mares. I guess I'll take this one first, since I know Caleb is fucking scrambling over there to take a look. So, look, once again, I know this is turf, and I know this is going to be a marathon type race, but looking at it, I do see a little bit of lone speed action here. So the first horse that I had circled here is and I hate that there's no post numbers at the bottom, the 4 horse Mean Mary. Got the big old E8 in this race with no other speed pretty much signed up. And you have Louis Saez aboard, who, if you want someone to steal something on the front end, I think Louis Saez is probably one of the better guys that you want aboard. He's pretty aggressive, and I think he's going to have this horse in a good spot. I don't think that the morning lines are out, so I don't really know how long of a shot Mean Mary's going to be, but I'd assume it's going to be um, a little bit of a longer shot play here. Um, the other three horses I have highlighted here, I'm sure Pack is going to talk about. I'll list them, and then I'll probably let you go, Mark, because I assume you have these three, which is going to be War Cabinet, Lady Paname, and Turiga. What do you got there, Mark?
I really don't have any of those three. To tell you the
Oh,
truth,
okay.
I am very skinny in this race. I want three horses. I want Mean Mary. I want Lady Paname. I do have, but I want Mean Mary and Lady Paname as A's. Obviously Lady Paname has come to the Chad Brown barn off the long layoff right now, but has been perfect in the States since getting LASIK first time. Was sort of a quality known name in France, and has really stepped it up to come to the States. So I think Lady Penne makes this a lot of sense. I like Mean Mary for the same type of reasons that Josh was liking Mean Mary. Seems a lone speed could get comfortable on the front end here, and a horse that really fits on Figs. Those two make a lot of sense. And the third horse that I want in here is I want probably as a B would be Simply Beautiful. Simply Beautiful does not like to win races, but Simply Beautiful is your European shifter getting LASIKs for the first time, and has faced some pretty solid company in Europe. We know the horse can get this kind of a distance. Um, but can you knock off some of the Americans? Maybe. I like the Aiden Shipper here with Ryan Moore up a bit. Probably ends up as a B, just on there's a lot of unknowns there, but and also the horse doesn't really like to win. But that's really all I want here.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar with my what I think will be my top selections here as both of y'all. My top pick will be Lady Paname. This horse just looked like Chad Brown had a hell of a horse on his hands last year. Well, I guess 2 years ago now, technically. Back in 2018, a horse was undefeated in the States since coming over from France. Not really sure how good this horse could have been if it wasn't for the layoffs. The layoffs are the big question. They had basically a year-long break from 17 to 18, another year and a couple months break from November of 18 until now. But Chad doesn't put horses where they don't fit. So I think that this horse, if Chad's putting it in a grade 3 on Pegasus Day, then that's where he thinks this horse has a legitimate chance to win. You get Irad Ortiz, and I think the deep closing run style could prove a little disadvantageous in a race that doesn't look like it has a lot of pace, but I think that's going to be my top selection, and the horse that I'd probably would guess is the morning line favorite. I also like Mean Mary. I don't know that Mean Mary is really quite good enough. I think she would need to improve, but she's only 4. She's at a scat daddy, so this easily could improve, and she is basically the lone speed here. So I think that she absolutely has to make tickets in some form or function just based off of that angle alone. Beyond that, there really wasn't anybody I truly liked. I don't like Simply Beautiful, really. A 1 for 15 horse that Aiden's shipping over. The horse will probably take money because Aiden, but it's just not a horse that I'm probably super interested in. I was trying to find a horse that I thought, if Mean Mary is not good enough, who's that horse that gets first run? And I don't know that the answer was completely clear to me as far as who that next off the pace horse might be. I was trying to debate, and maybe it could be somebody like, what number is this? Maybe someone like the 8 latest version, but that's a horse that just doesn't quite seem good enough. And there really wasn't much other speed. I thought maybe Johnny Velasquez on the 5, Tariga might have the horse a little more forwardly placed, but I think there will be a bit of a jockey's game going on here to see which jockey decides to send. Jaramillo's on the 1, which appears to be a dead closer, but you just never know what some of these jockeys might do in these semi-obvious lone pace scenarios. So those are my top 2, and there really isn't anybody else I feel pretty strongly about using.
Yeah, I think Simply Beautiful, at least looking at some of the comments, looks like looks like she likes to be somewhat midfield, forwardly placed. So that might be one. Ryan Moore might have this horse a little bit further up. Yeah, for the reasons that you described about Tariga, I think if Mean Mary ends up being completely cheap speed, I think Tariga is going to be the horse that gets first run. Um, and horse ran a pretty good one at Gulfstream late last year. The 20th December. So gets Johnny V aboard again. And Johnny V is quickly becoming one of my. The guy's been around forever, but he's definitely one of my favorite jocks. Just to have aboard a horse, because that for the most part he's not going to do anything stupid. So I think he's going to have the horse in a good spot and have first run here at the speed. And then I just I don't know if I'm just looking at speed figures that don't make any sense, but War Cabinet seemed like definitely ran better the longer she went. So I just thought that Shug's going to have her has her place in this race, just because there's not very many marathon type races this early in the year. I think this is going to be a good spot for her. But yeah, I think that this is probably still goes through the Chad Lady Paname, but I'll be using some of those 4 horses.
Yeah, one last note before we hop here. The one thing to take note of was Simply Beautiful. Her 2 best races by far of her career were both with Ryan Moore up, both those Newmarket races. So she's got the right jock on this time. And I don't know if she's necessarily, obviously we know that Aiden has had a horrible time shipping to the U.S. As of late, but if she drifts on the board, I don't know what more the line's going to be, but if you could get 6-1 or 8-1 on her, be super interesting for me.
All right, so let's move on here to the next race. We have the Inside Information Stakes presented by Run Happy, who I think is presenting half the races on this card. This is Run Happy Matchmaker. I wonder if this they get to breed to Run Happy. So it's a 7 furlong sprint, 1 turn. Fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up. Caleb's favorite horse, Spice Perfection, showing up in here. Is that who you got in here, Caleb?
So like I said, I haven't had a ton of time to look. I know that Spice Perfection is it's a horse I was against when she was originally scheduled to run in California at Santa Anita, maybe 2 weeks ago or last week. I don't remember what the race was, but that would have more been just a price play, and the fact that at the time I thought highly of Horologist, and that wasn't a smart idea. But Spice Perfection, is obviously a classy horse, coming in with just a really incredible win, back at Keeneland 3 back after just totally falling on her face at the gate. Ran an okay race in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. I think, Bellafina, came back to pretty much back up that effort, even in defeat, when going through some pretty intense fractions next out. And then Spice Perfection kind of got away with murder on the front end last time in a race that featured just no speed at all. And she got to make the lead and just kind of walk the dog. And that being said, I like her a lot better versus the 2-turn mile she was looking at Santa Anita. And she is the class of the field. So I do think that, she's a horse that makes some sense. There's enough speed in here that the pace should be honest. But I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to go. I think I will try to loop in a few of these speedball horses. Because these sprints are just won an awful lot on or near the pace. And I'm curious as to how far back Spice Perfection is really going to want to come from.
Yeah, the horse that I'm really interested in here, and I have no idea what's going to happen with, is going to be the 5 Blamed, on this long layoff, almost a year at this point. The horse looked really freaking good to start the year last year. I don't know if they got hurt or what happened, but yeah, she was looking great. and we haven't seen her in about a year at this point. So, uh, we'll see how Bill Mott has her prepped. That does get IRAD aboard, which brings me to a point that our boy Evil Bob Dole asked about jocks at Gulfstream. Um, like, I don't know if you've got. I mean, I've watched a bit of Gulfstream the past couple weeks. I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention, but I just fucking have no clue what these jocks are doing. There's just times where it, like we talked about earlier. There, it looked like there'd be a lone speed, or hey, these two horses are gonna grab the lead, and it's just like, you got Ira aboard just rating the shit out of the horse and just pulling it back, and yeah, like it always normally a jock like Irad is a plus, but I just sometimes I just like don't even know when it comes to Gulfstream like what the hell he's thinking. Now tends to show up on bigger days, so I guess you can't really fade Irad or Rosario or any of these other guys who sometimes give some of these boggling rides, but yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. If you've watched any of it, some of this stuff has been just freaking crazy what's happened. But yeah, I really like Blamed in the spot. We'll see what kind of price we get. I have a guess that she's gonna be pretty short, especially with that long layoff. Probably gonna be shorter than I would want to play straight. Obviously the one Liza Star is probably gonna be the speed of the speed. It's gonna get first jump from the rail, so and I believe has Harmio aboard. No, has Miguel Vasquez aboard. Sorry, but Miguel Vasquez has gotten this horse out on the front pretty much every time. So yeah, so that the two speed horses I do want to use here are going to be the 1 and the 5. I am going to use a little bit of the 7 Spice Perfection here. And call me crazy, but I think I'm going to use a little bit of the 11 as well. Pink Sands here. Ran a real big race at a Gulfstream last time out, winning that Grade 3 Rampart in a mile. Turning back a little bit, but once again, depending on how the track plays and how this plays out, if the speed gets a little fast, I think this will set up real nicely for Pink Sands coming closing in as well.
Yeah, I mean, in this race, this is another race in this sequence I want to be pretty deep in. JP's Delight, I don't think anybody's really mentioned yet, but JP's Delight is 3 for 3, coming off a really impressive score at Tampa beginning of December. Blamed, which I know Josh has brought up, is a horse I think you have to use as an A-type horse. Nona Madeline, who is the Pletcher in here, makes a lot of sense, although it's kind of flopped at better races. Seems to be maybe rounding into form now that that 4-year-old season is getting back going, and horse is second off a long layoff. Spice Perfection, you sort of have to use no matter what you feel of the horse. And the other one that I really kind of like on top is Pink Sands. For all the reasons Josh said, maybe just an older horse that's sort of found what she wants to do. She seems better sort of in that closer role. I think it's a horse I always thought highly of. Jose had choices in here, and he ends up staying with Pink Sands. So I think that tells you quite a lot. But I think you could make a case for sort of, those 4 is A's and maybe the rest of the field is C's. I don't think there's anybody that's way out of it. Lisa Starr loves winning races, has been on just absolute fire lately. The horse makes a lot of sense. And there's other horses that have thrown up figs that fit in here. That there's nobody that's a real outlier. So I think you could make a pretty good case for a lot of these in here.
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much covered it. The more I look through, I think Blamed is the speed horse I would obviously be the most interested in. The one horse is interesting, Lead Star, just given the rail draw plus the speed, but the horse has never had to run particularly fast to make the lead. And off the rail, like that is likely to change with all the speed drawn outside. I'm not sure how I feel about that horse. I think, I think this is going to end up being a little bit chalky once the morning line comes out, but I think my top 2 picks would be Blamed and Spice Perfection, which in my opinion is the best of the speed horses and then the best of the stalkers. Pink Sands is super interesting. with the right setup, she's really good. Um, she likes Gulfstream, but she also just seems to do a little bit better at those one-turn configurations. It just feels like 7 furlongs might be on the bit of the short side of what she really wants to do. Even with the hot pace, that might be one that could be working against her a little bit. But definitely not one that would surprise me if she gets up and is screaming home late when the speed starts getting tired. So a couple different ways you can go, but I think that Blamed and Spice Perfection are the ones I'm going to be looking towards the most, and then maybe a couple price horses underneath once the lines come out.
Yeah, I definitely think if Blamed runs her race, I think this is her race to lose. It's just with that long of a layoff and um, Mott's all right off the layoff, but I don't know. With looking at Brisnet, they stop at 90 plus days. I know Formulator a little bit deeper. Like, what does Formulator do? 180 plus and then 350 and then 1 year plus?
Yeah, they have a 180 and a 360 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how good he is, off the extended layoff. He's not. But yeah, he's fine after 90 days. So so it'll be interesting to see how he has her prepped. But yeah, I feel pretty good with just those 4 horses. Seems like we're all pretty close on that one. No one's really tossed out anything insane yet.
Hey, if anybody's watching this that is playing Delta, take a look at the 9 in the next race, which is just absolutely massive value on the board right now.
Did you hit this last race, race 6?
Yeah. I mean, the lone lone speed is deadly. I mean, that's
was it the 5?
No, 6.
Oh, the 6 was lone speed. Oh, it's also short.
Yeah, 6 was real short. And I mean, you've wanted sort of, if you're an optics player, you've wanted squares that are sort of in quadrant 1 tonight. That's been what's really been working, and you've been kind of printing money doing so. Yeah, this 9 seems to make a ton of sense here. Has big wet Tommies, and and makes a ton of sense from the optics play. And I'm shocked that this horse is not 3 to 5 or something.
Well, I'm placing a wager now.
Chat's got some love for Heaven Has My Nikki.
Yeah, I could go there as well. I have a soft spot for that horse for some reason. I don't know why, but Heaven Has My Nikki is a horse that I can get there. Sure.
I mean, I actually had Heaven Has My Nikki, my price play in the Breeders' Cup race, and I mean that didn't really work. But I mean, it's a Breeders' Cup race, so that's fine, But then she came back in that next race and also just ran terrible. So I think at this point she's a little tough to endorse. I mean, you'll probably get 30 to 1, deservedly, but she's a tough one for me to get behind after the last 2 races. Just seems to be out of form.
Yeah, I mean, her best race last year was that Vagrancy, where she beat Separation of Powers and Pacific Gale the other.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a horse you've been chasing and you're going to get 25 or 35 to 1 on her today, I'm not going to talk you off of that, but yeah, it's a little hard for me to get there.
All right, why don't we move on to you move on to the next one, or you got something back?
No, I was gonna say, if you want to go into the 10th, let's keep this rolling.
So I always love when they do this because I haven't been following horse racing that long, about 2 years at this point. But when they put WL McKnight, am I supposed to know what the WL stands for? Because I have no idea who this is.
William LaRue.
Now, that's Weller, but but we got the McKnight Stakes here. We'll just call it Grade 3, another marathon turf race here. I love this, man. We haven't. They don't like to run a lot of these, and especially that Gulfstream. So it's cool that they got two nice long turf races here. So Mark, what do you got here?
I am gonna again be pretty damn skinny here. I want most of my money going through Red Knight, the Mott horse with the Rosario up. it just seems to be sort of class of the field on paper, at least from what I'm looking at. Horses 7 for 18 lifetime, 1 for 1 over the circuit, and of course 1 a 2 mile across the circuit. So you can get kind of distance across this track, and it just makes a ton of sense here. Rosario gets aboard. I don't really know what's not to like there. Beyond that, I sort of had a hard time finding anybody else that really jumped off paper. Cross border makes probably the most sense of anyone else in here, but cross border is kind of an inconsistent type, and I don't know how the pace necessarily sets up in here. I haven't really seen figs yet. I think you could also make a case for was it Pumpkin Rumple as well? Was the other one that I liked a little bit of. Probably ends up being maybe a B on my ticket, but I think beyond that, there was nobody off here that I mean, maybe a little bit of Temple. Eh. I mean, Temple's probably your horse for course type of horse. Again, probably is a B depending on how you're looking at it. But beyond that, I don't really think I want anybody else. I think everybody else has sort of been exposed in here.
Look it. I'm just gonna tell you right now that you know that I am a sucker for pace. There's one horse in here that sticks out like a sore thumb. No, I know he has not run on turf yet, but the 12 American Tattoo. Because I'll tell you what, man, this horse will be able to get the distance, no problem. So I have absolutely no problem, no concerns about this horse getting this distance. I have no idea if this horse is going to take the turf at all, but I'm hoping we get a nice little price on American Tattoo. I'm gonna definitely be using some of this horse. Other than that, the 3 horses that I did, I also had included that were the 3 that you already talked about. I think Red Knight makes a ton of sense here. It's probably the logical horse. I do, and then just under that, I have Cross Border and Pumpkin Rumble as well. The other horse that I was kind of interested in, but I don't know. I don't know how much of the horse I'm gonna want, or if I'm gonna want any at all. Would be the 9 Shazier. I just think that the horse. This is probably more of an underneath horse than anything. I don't think this horse is good enough to win here because I think if you're gonna want an off the pace horse, like or just a straight dead closer, you're gonna want to have Red Knight, and you got Rosario aboard, so I mean, you pretty much got the match made in heaven right there with that. Although, if Red Knight's too short, there's that negative Rosario correlation as you get closer and closer to even money. So you do got to be careful about that. But yeah, those. I mean, American Tattoo is more of a price dependent play. But is going to be one that I'm going to use a little bit of, at least in some way, shape, or form, just because of the pace setup here.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought American Tattoo up, because my top pick is actually looks like it's gonna be Shazier in this race. So the 9. If you haven't, please rewatch the H. Allen Jerkins, the replay from that race, because it made. I mean, you probably have already seen horse racing Twitter famous, Ortiz brothers collusion type conspiracy headlines. And whether you blame Irad for, intentionally fouling Paco, or whether you blame Paco for trying to, squeeze into a hole that was never there and Irad held his lane, I don't care. The point was, this horse was loaded, had just a brutal boxing match into the stretch with Karam, and then eventually passed Karam quite easily, and just kind of ran out of racetrack, and couldn't quite get to American Tattoo. That was a race on the dirt, but the thing is, to me, this Shazier has looked like a horse that's wanted more ground for a long time. Cairo Prince offspring often do pretty well going farther, and there's definitely some class concerns here. I mean, I see the claiming $40,000 loss, as well as some of these lower level races, but I think this horse has always wanted farther. I mean, you can tell his best races have come going the 1.125 miles, 1.25 miles. And I think he's going to fit well here. I do, have some concerns about, American Tattoo potentially being lone speed. I just don't know how good American Tattoo really is. But that's a valid angle for sure, and that's a horse that probably makes a ticket of mine in some form or fashion. Temple is another one that we kind of touched on, that horse for course angle that might be usable for me. Same thing with Cross Border, not so much horse for course, but the horse just likes to win on turf. I mean, 6 for 12 lifetime on turf, only 1 of 9 on the synthetics, so it seems like this one just prefers the grass. And the 2 bad races to his name have come against horses that would be overwhelming favorites in this spot, with Instilled Regard, Admission Office, Channel Cat, Arklow, Channel Maker, Sadler's Joy. Pretty much every other race he's won or has a second by a head. So that's a horse that I will be using. And then Arklow, I think, is the obvious, the one who's going to be I'm sorry, not Arklow. Fuck Arklow.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Red Knight. Red Knight is the one who's going to be the obvious. I think the horse is a must use, but the horse is a little bit tough to trust sometimes. Horse was really good when he's good, but also is one that sometimes just doesn't really throw his best effort out there. So I think that Red Knight's the one who you have to use, but again, the price is going to be short, and I'm going to go. Shazir's probably the first horse who I think is going to be a pretty generous price. I would guess every bit of 10 or 12 to 1, if not better. That I'm probably going to try to get live to.
Yeah, I definitely like Shazir. I completely forgot that was the horse that got completely mugged by Irad. Yeah, that's an interesting. Looking at the comment, it just says bumped.
That's why you have to watch replays. I mean, track comments can be so misleading.
Bumped, yeah, it's fucking got mugged. That's funny.
I mean, you guys can get all about Shazir all you want, not to drag this on forever, but first thing that was on dirt. We're not racing on dirt today. Second thing is the horse is 1 for 12 lifetime and 1 for 8 at Gulfstream. I mean, if you want to get all about that horse, you have fun, but that is not. And also, figs don't really fit with what other people in here are sort of running, especially when you look at turf races where the horses run in the mid 80 figs and there's horses that can run in the mid 90s here. You want to get all about it? Hey man, hopefully you get paid, but I just not a horse that I can really get behind with Shazir.
Yeah, it's a horse that you have to, I think, project improvement to get to. And that's basically kind of where I'm coming from, is I think the horse is always running a little too short, and might just take a big step forward at a nice price. And the price has to be right. I wouldn't take the horse at 6 to 1, but anything in double digits in the 12 to 15 to 1 range, and I think he becomes really attractive for me anyway.
Yeah, you're saying looks like it wants to stretch out, but pedigree for me doesn't really scream stretch out. I mean, Pioneer of the Nile over Polish numbers. I mean, or Cairo Prince over Polish numbers. I mean, maybe, but obviously anything can happen.
Evil Bob Dole asking if we can get a moment of silence for Empire Maker. Nope, I heard you. Someone drink. Who drank?
Mark.
All right, we're good.
I was muted.
Let's move on to the. I was trying to think of a good name for this race.
Let's call it the Horses Caleb Hates Stakes.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with something in here. Dude, Caleb, I don't know. I am so interested in hearing what you're going to do in this race, because literally, I don't know, at least like 8 of these horses are on your I would never bet this horse again list here.
Oh, this was actually I haven't looked at this race yet. I'm literally scrolling, and I already know it's going to be the easiest race for me to handicap.
Because you just throw all the other horses out?
Yeah, I will not have on a single ticket, anyone let's see here. Channel Cat, absolutely not.
You're going to be wearing the shirt again.
Sadler's Joy.
It's going to happen again.
No, Sadler's Joy, you had your 1 win for the decade. Who else we got in here? Arklow, man, no thanks. You're going to be, 9 to 5 some. Zulu Alpha, no, this isn't, Kentucky Downs. So, yeah, I think all those horses are tosses. And the 2 horses that I want the most of are Without Parole, who, just to start there, I think without parole, I was on this horse in the Breeders' Cup, so that kind of tells you how highly I thought of this horse. And the horse ran a really sneaky good third place off of a long layoff, first start in America against the top milers in the country. Uni and Got Stormy both are more than proven, just phenomenal milers. Ran a sneaky good third. And I think this horse just has every right to take a step forward here. Distance shouldn't be a problem. That's Frankie Dettori gets up, who's been on this horse a number of times overseas. That horse is probably my 1A. To my 1B is going to be the 10. I didn't really think this horse was that good initially. It took forever kind of to break his maiden. And then the horse comes back and breaks his maiden. Okay. And then he comes back, and I was against him in the Twilight, and he somehow wired him with Rosario from the 11 post or something, or didn't wire, I suppose, but was just off the pace. And then I kind of chalked that one up just to a good pace setup. The horse was 18-1 for a reason, but the horse has just come back to back it up in every single effort. The Hollywood Derby, and then again last out. I mean, he's come back to just run respectable figs. This is farther than he's ever gone before. Pedigree suggests he should be able to handle it. Rosario's on board, who really seems to get this horse. He's versatile, can close or be just off the lead. I think the one thing that makes me a little concerned is the Lasix comes off for this race. Peter Miller is definitely a trainer who fully utilizes on his horses. So it's unclear, if you look at that first race he ran without Lasix in his debut, it was a 5 furlong sprint. He ran okay. It's hard to really deduce much from that because he really didn't get good until his last 3 or 4 starts. I think this horse has speed. It has, a very versatile run style, the right connections. Peter Miller is pretty strong when he ships out of California. And I think that's probably the other horse I'm going to use most prominently. Realistically, the horse, could arguably be Lone Speed, wouldn't you think? I'm just kind of glancing through the other ones now. I mean, assuming Tusk does not draw in and the Channel Cat doesn't send, I don't see much other speed here.
No, that was pretty much my thinking there too with Mo Forza. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much with you there with the 2 top choices there. If I were to do A B this, or even A B C, I would probably go 2 more deep in the B or C. I know this horse has got a huge case of seconditis, but I'm going to go back to the Magic Wand well here. I just think that race, I mean, the Arlington Million, she ran a huge race. Almost thought that she was going to pull it out. And of course, Bricks and Mortar is just a fucking freak. And even when he looked like he was going to lose, he won by 3/4 of a length. So I mean, going back to that, did go back to Australia and finally did win her Group 1 there. And then ran second to Nose and the Hong Kong Cup. So I feel pretty good about this horse coming in. I think horse is in good form. Aiden shipped this horse over to the U.S. a couple times and has shown up every time. Losing by 3/4 of a length at the Man of War and at Arlington. So, yeah, it's probably could go between using his horse as an A or a B, but definitely I'm going to have Magic Wand on some tickets. You're gonna hate me, Caleb, but there's one of the horses that you absolutely hate that I think I'm gonna have to use, and I fucking hate this horse, but I'm probably gonna use it as B or C here. It's gonna be the 4 Sadler's Joy. I'm probably just a sucker because of that fucking last race, the Red Smith. I mean, coming out of the clouds and winning that one, and I thought this horse was done. It went off as a favorite 2 races in a row, and I was just like, I don't know. I watched that race again, and I'm like, maybe he can do it one more time, maybe one more time. But I still think that Without Parole is probably going to be in a better spot. And is going to get first run on this. So I mean, it would take Without Parole pretty much not firing for Sadler's Joy to win this. But outside of those top three horses, I think that's the other horse that I can see myself.
So first off, the Discord whales killed the value on my 9 Delta down to even money. But with that being said, I really just want to go 3 deep here, and I don't want to really get cute in here. I want Without Parole. I want Sacred Life, the Chad horse, and I want Magic Wand. I want them all as A's, and that's basically it. I mean, you could make a case for some of the group, the Zulu Alphas and the Arklows and the Sadler's Joys as being C type horses, but they all hate winning, and anytime they run any actual legit competition or any sort of pace pressure, they just fold. So I want those 3 horses in A's. That's where I want most of my money going through, and I'm not going to get much too cute with that race. And yeah.
Yeah, honestly, my guess is value wise, uh, Magic Wand might be the value. I don't know. It's going to be close, I think, between Magic Wand and More Forza. I think Mo Forza maybe doesn't take all the money. I mean, has been favored the last 2 races after winning that. What was the race that the Twilight the race that was the Saturday of Breeders' Cup? What looks like, is it the Twilight Derby or the
Twilight Derby is the weekend before the Derby.
whatever the Twill Derby, whatever the Twill Derby is at Santa Anita. After that one looked. I'm watching your race and I don't see your 9 anymore. Yeah, I just think that depending on which horse is the better value between Magic Wand and Forza, that would probably be uh, like the win bet content.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we have to. I have to briefly address Magic Wand. I mean, the horse is good, very good. Horse has, enough frequent flyer miles to probably fly all of us to go to the Pegasus this year. But the horse just doesn't win enough. I can excuse the races against Bricks and Mortar and Enable, but some of those races down in Australia where it's just a non-effort, and Chatin was a close second, but I don't make money off that horse in a close second. So if she had a better draw, I really think she'd make my ticket, truth be told. But all the way out there in the parking lot with her sort of mid-pack run style, Aiden O'Brien's been very poor shipping in lately to America. Probably one that I think 7-2 was the morning line that's out on this horse is probably one I'll try to get around. Depending on what I like other places, I don't know that I would totally throw her out or just kind of fade her a little bit. But Mark, I am a little curious though. You said you're using Sacred Life, but no mention of Mo Forza. Can you elaborate a little more on that? I mean, just Sacred Life to me is a horse that's kind of lost to Luke Cullen, Kurban, and next shares, and then beat in a conditional allowance field. This feels like a tough spot for that horse. I get that it's Chad Brown, but to use that horse as an A and then to not have Mo Forza, just kind of curious as to your logic there.
I don't really have any good logic there, quite honestly. There's no great logic there. Yeah, I mean, I guess in looking back at it, it probably does belong here a little more than I had used. And I mean, get 4 consecutive win streak. Yeah, I probably have to use more Mo Forza somewhere, and maybe I do move, a Sacred Life down to being a B with the other 2s as A's. I'm not quite sure. Mo Forza just is a horse that's never kind of impressed me. Like I don't know. I mean, I guess 4 straight. That says something, but it's just not a horse that I ever got really super excited about. And yeah, I guess again we all kind of speed cap this, and yeah, Mo Forza is probably a horse I need to look a little more deeply into. And I do agree with you. Sacred Life probably needs a rebound race. but Ian Medieval Forces, or Sacred Lift, I should say, has been sort of beaten at these sort of levels. So, yeah, I probably have to use them both, and maybe they both become Bs.
Yeah, I wasn't really trying to poke holes in your pick. I've gone through quickly. I'm just seeing if I'm.
No, you weren't. You weren't. It was me going through it quickly and just going, the obvious Chad is obvious, and you want to use it, just because those kind of things burn you when you don't use them. And I've never really loved California shippers. Like I tend to not use them. I tend to fade them a little bit. But Rosario stays here, and he's 2 for 2 on the horse, and it's Peter Miller who does ship pretty darn well. So yeah, it's a horse I need to use.
Yeah, I think there's a real argument to be made to just, for me anyway, to use Mo Forza and the 3 Chad Browns, and then just have yourself covered. I don't think or 2 Chad Browns. How many are there? There's 3, isn't there?
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the other 2 could both be live at a decent price, but would need to step forward a little bit.
Mark, what happened to your 9?
I'm trying to watch replays and understand what happened. I have a feeling the horse might have broken down.
Ooh.
The answer 6421's Discord question. Nelly over.
Yep.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't have tripled down my bet.
No. They have not shown a break, and so I'm assuming that something happened at the break. They've shown top of the other sort of around the corner, top of this, and down the finish line. They have not shown a break, so I have a feeling something happened, and I'm not listening to the video or not listening to the audio, so I don't know.
Guys, I'm going to do it. Race 12. Going back to the well. Pounding on this drum. All over for the BC. I think this is going to be it. I think I'm going to bet Seeking this.
You're better than that, Josh.
Oh, dude, I don't know. This pace, taking a look here at the Pacific Classic, or not Pacific Classic, the Pegasus World Cup here. I said PC. I'm thinking Pacific Classic. We still got what? 6 months. 6 months till Del Mar opens. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, frankly, a lot of these horses and these are not like, most of the time these are the horses that are going to show up in like grade 2, grade 3 type races where it's just them and a bunch more garbage. And so you gotta bet them. Like you're gonna get Mr. Freeze as the class of the field in some like listed stake somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I have a hard time like looking at the pace scenario. I'm like, well, I want the closer. I want someone coming off the pace or someone, coming, someone who's got some late speed here. And I mean, outside of Seeking a Soul, I mean, Tenfold, who hasn't really shown much, since the Pinnacle Special, really. Who else is really going to be coming from kind of deep? No, I mean the speed, the obvious speed or front runner horse here is going to be either Omaha Beach or Bodie Express, and Omaha Beach outclasses Bodie Express. I mean, Omaha Beach is a much better horse. So I kind of had a hard time figuring out pace-wise how this was going to kind of shake out. And when I have a hard time figuring out pace-wise how something's going to go, I usually have a hard time figuring out how I want to bet this. I mean, Diamond Dupes, I don't really know. Caleb, Mark, what do you guys think?
First off, Josh, to answer your previous question, the 9 horse looks like bore out really bad at the start, and I don't know if the jockey lost a rein or lost a bit or something, but just sat the horse up and kind of pulled to the outside. So,
well, the horse got out of the gate. That was all I wanted to know because I was hoping for a non-starter.
No non-starter. Horse did not break, or horse broke really oddly. maybe made it 200 yards into the race, and the jock like sat the horse up and pulled out. Either something went south, or something, rains or something happened. It was a weird, out straight and then just veered to the right. So it looks like everything's okay, but not a breakdown, but something went south.
So
Yeah.
actually, real quick before you go, Mark, you know what really upsets me about this race actually is this is the type of race where I absolutely 100% would want to beat Omaha Beach. Like this is the type of race where I would want to beat a horse that wants to be forwardly placed or on the speed that is up against it in the pace because you got a bunch of horses that want to be on the lead and on the speed. This is the perfect time that you want to try and beat a horse like Omaha Beach. The problem is that there is absolutely, I don't know if there's a horse in here that can beat Omaha, which is just like, as much as I don't like that horse, is kind of frightening.
Yeah, I hate this race. This race is terrible. I think this is a race that you either need to get really cute with Omaha Beach and just be really single EA Omaha Beach and just kind of go, okay, he's the best horse in the race, because he probably is. I just hate him. He's terrible. He's not a horse I want to use. It's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't like Omaha Beach at all here. I sort of want to go deep here and kind of get cute. I want a lot of Diamond Oops, who's obviously the horse for course, world's worst jock aboard, but yeah, he wins occasionally, and apparently he's done okay on the horse. So I want a lot of Diamond Dupes. I want a lot of Omaha Beach probably becomes an A as well, because you sort of have to. Um, and then I feel like you have to use Spun to Run. JJ ends up there. I know that was sort of a horse that Josh was high on at one point. So Spun to Run makes probably a lot of sense. And then I think probably also Mucho Gusto has got to be a horse that you have to have involved in that equation to some degree as well. But it's one of those races where, if I don't know, a True Timber or a Tax or somebody jumps up and fires a big one and wins this race, Seeking the Soul even, it wouldn't really shock me. It's a race I feel like you have to go deep. I don't have anybody that I really love in here. It's a big money race, and just it's a meh field. Like, just nobody gets me excited here.
Yeah, I think it is a tough race. It's the kind of race where, before I saw the entries and the invitations and whatnot, I was gonna, had my mind made up that I was gonna try to beat Omaha Beach. Looking at what actually turned up, there's no gift box, there's no Maximum Security, there's no McKinsey. Some of them we knew weren't probably coming. Vino Rosas were, and it's just there's just nobody here that looks very good. I think Omaha Beach is a good horse. I would argue I think Omaha Beach might be a very good horse. But the horse has this like crazy cult following that thinks he's like, the greatest horse since like Secretariat out there. And it's just like, he gets bet like that every time. And I don't know that he's that good. Now having capped the first couple races in the sequence, I didn't see any obvious singles I could lean on. So, if you're playing skinny, I could see you just hitching your wagon to Omaha Beach. He made the Malibu win look about as easy as you can do it, but it was a 4-horse field that he just absolutely towered over. He probably should have won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, but had just a horrendous ride from Mike Smith. And I think that's the concern I have again, is like, Mike Smith has, really taken a lot of the early speed off of this horse and elected to rate him in his past couple events. And it's definitely alarming that that's not a strategy that often works that well at Gulfstream. And there isn't really a ton of true need the lead speedball speed in here. I would be pretty confident that the connections of Spun to Run are going to put him on the front. Given that they tried rating off Maximum Security last time, it didn't really work. So I'd expect him, and then certainly Bodie Express, who got absolutely hosed by the draw in the 12th post. To me, that makes him unusable, but he is the horse that is probably most likely to make the lead. And then you have a couple others who are probably going to be right up on the pace too, like a Mucho Gusto or whatnot. So yeah, I think honestly, out of the horses, Omaha Beach is going to be short. He's probably going to be an odds-on favorite. And then you're probably going to have like Spunderun and Mucho Gusto, like kind of in that second flight. I'm not interested in Mucho Gusto at all. If you run fourth in the Oklahoma Derby at Remington as a odds-on favorite, I've never thought this horse was that good. I've never really thought the horse wanted to go this far. That's a horse I have. Baffert kind of tossed him in last minute. Not a horse I'm interested in. I get that Irad gets up and everything else, but that's more of a career move for Irad than anything about each horse's chances, in my opinion.
I laugh because I look at Mucho Gusto's like last couple races, and in like the top 3 finishers, I see horses that I would rather have in this race than anybody else. Like Owendale, totally would bet in this race like real hard. Code of Honor, I would want dude, I'd take Tassis. I fucking hate Tassis. I would bet Tassis. I would probably even bet Roadster in this fucking race. Like,
now you're reaching.
I don't know. I don't think I'm that crazy with Roadster, but it's just crazy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a couple horses here. I don't know how I'll structure it. There's a chance I do make Omaha single A. Mandela's on the record saying he's never trained a horse as good as Omaha Beach, and Mandela's had some good horses. I mean, he trained Beholder a couple of years ago, or I guess longer than that now. But I mean, I don't know if it's just an exaggeration or recency bias or whatever else. But I think the professional horse player, quote unquote, Twitter tout hate has gone too far on that horse, whereas the public love might have gone too far the other direction. So that's a horse I have to use. Otherwise, horses I'm interested in, Diamond Dupes, probably. I think he was something silly, like 20 or 30 to 1 on the morning line. This is a horse that just won the Mr. Prospector pretty convincingly, over a horse that would have probably vied for favoritism in the Breeders' Cup Sprint with Imperial Hint if he didn't scratch. And then, a horse that used to be a dominant sprinter in XY Jet. I mean, this horse looked really good. My question about him is I just don't really know what he's best at. The horse has won sprinting on dirt. He's, ran competitively routing on turf, nearly stole the Shadwell turf mile, Keeneland this past fall. The horse can kind of do it all, but I don't really know what he's best at. This will be the first time that he's tried 2 turns on dirt that I can see, in the past 2 years anyway. I don't know that I think that would be a problem for him. He has some pace. LaPrvyte kind of seems to get this horse. You can excuse the Breeders' Cup effort as well. He kind of missed the break a little bit, and then there just really wasn't any passing going on late that race. Omaha Beach was the only horse to sort of make up any ground, and the freaking Korean horse actually held on for third, just basically running around in the order they broke. So I kind of draw a line through that. Probably the one I'm most interested in. Maybe a little bit of War Story. That is admittedly more of a reach for the 8-year-old gelding to come back and get a win like this. But I thought he ran a good race last time for the Elizabeth Doble's barn, and you do get Rosario up. And then Higher Power is the other. I've always thought Higher Power was kind of overrated. But he ran another one of those kind of sneaky good thirds because he was never really threatening the first 2. But he did do some closing and ran an okay third, beating a number of decent horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He ran third in the, Awesome Again after having a pretty bad break. So he's a horse that's just, I think he was like 6 to 1 when the lines came out, which wasn't really a price that gets me excited. You got the same connections as Accelerate, which I think might be on people's minds, and end up getting this horse to bet down a little more than I want to bet him at. But he's one that, wouldn't surprise me if he won.
Yeah, the looking a little bit closer.
So Josh, you haven't mentioned your horse, Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze is definitely not my horse. Mr. Money is my horse, not Mr. Freeze.
Oh, sorry, wrong
Mr. Money, dude. Mr. Money would be all over my tickets in this race. Are you kidding me? This is gonna be one of those things where I think I'm gonna be real freaking spread in this race. You gotta use Omaha Beach. I don't like the horse, but just don't know who beats him here. And then I think you gotta use all the horses that you have to kind of move up due to the pace setup, and that's going to be your Dimedoops, Seeking the Soul, War Story, um,
Spun to Run.
Tenfold, Spun to Run, like, because you just don't freaking know. Like, I mean, even Mucho Gusto. I mean, if one of these fires a race, gets a pace set up front, um, and Omaha Beach just doesn't finish. I mean, you're gonna have like 4 horses charging at the end, that have one run, and God knows what happens. I mean, I really don't even put it past Bodie Express wiring this. I mean, Bodie Express uh, has run pretty decently at Gulfstream Park, more notably Gulfstream Park West. But um, you know, I think that he's gonna. I mean, they have to send. I mean, that's the only Jaramillo's only option is to send from the parking lot. So I mean, who knows? It's kind of an interesting race, but it's just right now it's just the pace scenario is a little about as clear as mud to me is upon first look. So it's pretty much going to be wanting to have Omaha Beach and then all of the off the pace horses plus maybe Bodie Express is like a real like crazy C.
Yeah, there is a lot of speed. The more I look at this, there is a lot of speed signed up in this race. I don't know which closer though I really want. I mean, who makes the most sense? Here's a closer, Seeking the Soul, maybe.
Seeking the Soul. You know what? I didn't think about this right away, but after you mentioned it a little bit, Caleb, actually, War Story does make a lot of sense. If you look at the Harlan's Holiday, one came off the pace on a pretty hot pace, which might be similar to what we probably won't get 22-4, but who knows? That is what Bodie Express set last time. And closed in and won off the pace. And you're going from Luis Saez, who's a good rider, but you're going from Luis Saez to probably the jock you want on any kind of off the pace horse in Rosario. So I think with the jock upgrade and the way this pace might set up, I think War Story is definitely the kind of horse that you don't want to get beat by, and does make a little bit of sense, is in good form right now, and is going to be I think helped by the pace scenario here.
I guess I mean, like, I agree with you that the pace is not clear. I guess my interpretation of the unclear pace is I don't think it's going to be like a fall apart kind of race. I don't think I want horses that are coming from more than the front half of the field, we'll say, because there's just a ton of those mid-pack stalker kind of horses. So realistically, I think you're going to have Bodie Express on the front, maybe Spun to Run, and Mucho Gusto right out there with them. And then I think you're going to have probably about 8 horses all trying to sit third, and then Seeking the Soul, well at the rear. But so I think post draw is going to be super important, which is why I'm a little afraid to go super wide for the likes of Mucho Gusto and Spun to Run, because I do think with so many horses that want to really just sit that third spot behind the leaders, it could end up being a race where everyone's content just to sit a length or two off of Bodie Express, and they kind of bunch up, and the pace ends up being a little slower than we expect, because most of these horses are not true need the lead types except for the 12.
Yeah, I mean, take a horse like Tax, for example, right? I mean, early in the year, I mean, Tax was just a speed horse. I mean, you knew he was going to go out there. He's going to try and be just off the lead or on the lead. But if you look at his last race at Discovery, I mean, I don't know if he missed the start or if their idea the whole time was to rate him. He sat 5th. And if you look through the PPs, you get a lot of horses that are like that, where half of their races, they're looking for the lead, and then the other half they're sitting back. Higher Power, for example, once again, beginning of the year was trying to get on the lead, or at least on if you look at his turf races and even the Pacific Classic, right there close to the lead. but then you look at the rest of his, and he's sitting 4 or 5 lengths off the pace. So it's always tough when you have all these EP type horses, with these 6, 7, 8s, because you just don't know. I mean, it's really up to what the jock is going to do. And like someone like Mr. Freeze, I would expect to get sent. But someone like Spun to Run, I don't know. Castellano is one of the most passive jocks in New York, and a passive jock in New York. I mean, if you shoot him over into the Midwest or on the Gulf Stream, it looks like he's asleep on the horse. Like, you don't know. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, for all we know, Bodie Express could get an easy lead from the 12th post. I mean, that's a very real possibility because of the way that some of these jocks are so passive. So it really does muddy things up, especially from having watched some of the Gulfstream meet, not knowing how the jocks just aren't consistent in how they how aggressive they are. Most of them tend to be a little bit more passive, almost like they're afraid to make mistakes or something on the ride. But if all of these horses run true to form, then I do see something more like Off the Pace coming, becoming more of a positive. I mean, Seeking the Soul and Bodie Express are the two horses that are pretty 100%. Hey, Seeking the Soul's coming from Off the Pace. Like, they're Seeking the Soul's not going to be forwardly placed, and Bodie Express's only option is to get to the front. The rest of the horses, God only knows what's going to happen. So it's going to be an interesting race to watch. I don't know how good of a betting race this is going to be, just with all the uncertainty, unless you do something crazy and like just try and throw Omaha Beach out completely, because I know that he's going to be real short here. But yeah, I'm actually very interested to see what the optics plot looks like, because I mean, I can't really make sense of this, so I'm really curious to see what the visual on that will be.
How many lengths does Maximum Security beat?
Open. I mean, easy. I mean, dude, I'm just thinking about horses that, I mean, hell, Bravazzo. Dude, Bravazzo, I would probably be, what, third choice in here? Second choice? And the horse hasn't run in how long?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like Spun to Run's a good horse, a nice horse. But Spun to Run's what, 7-2 on the morning line or something like that? 9-2?
I think so.
I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think Omaha Beach is going to take a ton of money, and I think that this race is a lot more wide open than just Omaha Beach. The problem is that outside of maybe building some kind of trifecta with Seeking the Soul in all three positions, I don't know how I would play this.
I think Dennis actually does bring up yeah, I don't think he ends up having True Timber kind of as a C horse, or underneath kind of horse. If you look back, the horse lost to Maximum Security in his last two races. I mean, he was never close to beating Maximum Security, but we've already sort of established Maximum Security beats his field by as many lengths as he wants. Joe Bravo comes down for his only mount of the day, I think, or one of the very few to ride this race. And if you look at that last race in the Cigar Mile, Maximum Security made the lead. Spun to Run was second, and they were 1-2 around the track the entire way until Maximum Security kind of pulled away at the end. True Timber was kind of the only horse to really make up any ground that race. I mean, the pace was honest. I'm not saying it was a slow pace or anything, but he was the only horse to really, he broke from the 11 post, the far outside. He was, seventh at the first call, then fifth at the second call, then fourth in the stretch. Ends up getting up for third. And that was at a one-turn mile. I know he hasn't historically fared too well, at this distance, and he hasn't really won a ton of races. It's not a horse I'd consider on the top, but he is one that I think might be able to, sneak in underneath, especially with that rail draw. He's have a lot of ground, and the rail is historically pretty strong at Gulfstream. So that's a horse that I might look to work into the bottom of exactas or trifectas. Oh, we apparently Bravo has 5 mounts. I haven't looked at the rest of the card, but the rest of my point stands.
All right, so Pack, if you had to pick one horse to race to win, who you got?
On the entire card or in
No,
this race?
this race.
Oh God, no one. I mean, if you force me, Splendor.
What do you got, Caleb?
If I'm picking the likeliest winner, like gun to my head, if I'm picking the best value, I think it's going to be Diamond Dupes.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was banging this drum the whole time. I think that, and I think was it Bob Dole who brought it up? No, it was Sporting Chances who brought it up. One thing too about my boy Seeking the Soul here is he's getting a jock upgrade. He's getting Velasquez aboard, John Velasquez again. So, he won the Stephen Foster with Seeking the Soul. Ran a pretty decent race at Ali Sheba against 2 horses that would be huge favorites in this race, in McKinsey and Tom's the Tot. So I think that this might be this is going to be value, and I think just as far as pace scenario goes, this is going to set up nicely for Seeking the Soul. So I cannot wait for Seeking the Soul to finish dead last on Saturday. But I think that was a pretty good first pass. We got I'm gonna go through this in a little bit.
Wait, Josh, your likeliest pick is Seeking the Soul.
Oh yeah, Seeking the Soul is gonna be my pick. Absolutely. I think it's gonna be. I mean, likeliest winner. I mean, clearly is gonna be Omaha Beach. I think Omaha Beach is gonna be super short though, and there's just not gonna be. You're not gonna be able to bet him in any reasonable way. I don't think, even if you're like dead set on him being the favorite. But I think that Seeking the Soul is probably going to be the value here. I was trying to look up the morning line. I forgot what he is on the morning line, but I'm pretty sure it was double digits. Between Seeking the Soul and your pick there, Diamond Dupes, I think there's a good shot for a nice double digit winner here on this race. But of course, Omaha Beach is. Why waste 20 minutes breaking down a race when the favorites is going to win? But you guys got any other closing thoughts on this?
I really don't, quite honestly. I mean, I think the peg is pretty wide open. I think a few of these races you can get pretty you can get a little cute with. Peg, I don't think is one of those, but yeah, interesting card. Probably some interesting horizontal sequences in here if you have some opinions, and should be a fun day.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add. This was very much a rough draft, first pass version, so opinions may change in the coming days, once we get, additional, odds could come out, once I get my hands on some other data, and, maybe if I end up buying optics or anything like that, or Thorographs, things may change, but I'll be in Discord if my opinions do change or I should see anything else I like, and I'm sure I'll be chatting about it pretty much nonstop between now and Saturday.
Yeah, I haven't.
Don't forget, mandatory payout in the pick 6 is Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. I haven't talked to you guys yet, but we'll talk offline. I'm gonna try and get a blog post or article up with some of our thoughts a little bit closer to first post, not post time, but just after we actually get some odds and maybe some early scratches. Maybe try and get something up either Friday or something. we'll be in Discord. If you guys got any questions, you guys can always reach us in Discord. At Cherry Drink. Pack is at PackRat99, and then Caleb is at Caleb. Make sure you wish our boy Guy on the Ground in Discord and of Oaklawn on Twitter a speedy recovery, and that he's able to get through his physical therapy and pain pills, and hopefully we see him next week. But for the rest of the on the wrong lead team, I'm Josh, and we'll see you guys later.